Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today we are doing a kids and young adult book haul. So I have 7 books to talk to you about today that I've got from work and 6 books that I just got myself. I'm going to talk about those books first and then leave my work books to the end, where I'm just going to talk about them very, very briefly. And I'm going to start things off by talking about 3 young adult books. So the first of those is A Sleep Like Death by Kaylin Bayron. I'm so excited to read this book. I read Cinderella is Dead maybe last year and I really enjoyed it. It really took me by surprise with how much I enjoyed it. Cinderella is Dead was quite a feminist retelling of the classic Cinderella story that we know, and I'm guessing this is kind of the same thing but for Snow White. I don't really feel like I need to know anything beyond that going into this book. I'm so confident that I'm going to enjoy it. This is one that I pre-ordered because I love Cinderella is Dead so much, and if I get on with this book as much as I did that book, I definitely want to read some of Kaylin Bayron's other books as well. Next, I have a couple of books from the same author, Juno Dawson. So Cruel Summer. This is a book that I've already read. I just wanted to add it to my collection because I love Juno Dawson's books so much. So this is about a group of teenagers who are going to be spending the summer at this Spanish villa. It's a bunch of old school friends that are kind of being reunited, and they haven't seen each other since one of the members of the friendship group tragically committed suicide years ago. They're hoping that this summer they're going to be able to put that behind them and move on with their friendships. But then someone arrives on the island claiming that they have proof that this friend's suicide was not that. It was in fact murder. I read this maybe 6 years ago now and really enjoyed it, so I just wanted to add a copy of it to my collection. And at the same time I got a copy of Clean. This is part of Juno Dawson's London trilogy of books. I mean, it's a kind of a loose trilogy. I guess it's more of a thematic trilogy than a series. I've only read one of the books in that series. I read Wonderland, which was like an Alice in Wonderland retelling. I read that a few years ago and absolutely loved it. So I'm shocked I haven't read the other books in this sequence of novels. I really enjoyed how Wonderland kind of combined the upper class with the gritty. And they're definitely kind of upper young adult. There are some very adult themes in relation to sex and drugs and alcohol, etc. This is about a socialite named Lexi who is checked into this kind of exclusive rehabilitation facility after she overdosed. So it is really about those themes of kind of how drug culture and the upper class kind of socialite culture intersect. As I said, I love everything that Juno writes, so feel pretty confident I'm going to like this one. I also have 3 middle grade books that were very kindly sent to me by Faber. So I have the Houdini Inheritance. This is a proof copy. I think the final one is out now, by Emma Carroll. So this is set on the English seaside in 1926. So it is historical middle grade, which Emma Carroll does amazingly. The back says, a world famous escape artist, a suitcase full of secrets, a death-defying stunt. I think I'm really going to enjoy this one. I think, so many middle grade books are about fantastical magic, so I'm really intrigued to see what this book does with kind of how we understand the art of magic in the real world. And then I have Coffee and the Secret Radio Station and Coffee and the Rap Battle Summer. I love that these are really drawing on different kind of creative things that kids are into. Creating music, promoting music, rap, making a fanzine, it's all so creative but also really cool. I will read these super quickly, so we'll report back on my thoughts. And very quickly I'm going to talk about the books from work that have come onto my shelf. So I'm going to start with I Shall Never Fall in Love by Harry Connor. This is a young adult graphic novel that I would really recommend if the idea of Heartstopper meets Bridgerton really appeals to you. Next is The Case of the Poisonous Pigs by Nick Sheridan, who sadly is no longer with us. So I'm really proud that I get to work at the place that has published Nick's final book. This is part of a mystery series that follows 3 amateur sleuths, journalists, detectives solving the local mysteries. And this one is about uncovering the mystery that lies beneath the new local pig theme park. Next, I have If My Words Had Wings by Danielle Juwando. You may know Danielle from some of her previous young adult books, And the Stars Were Burning Brightly and When Our Worlds Collided. Her books are so masterfully written and emotionally evocative and touching. She is one of my favorite young adult authors. And this is about a teenage boy who has spent time in a young offenders prison after being caught up in a very high profile robbery. When he gets out, he's determined to turn his life around, but the kind of system for rehabilitation once you enter back into society isn't really set up to do that effectively. But this is particularly about the impact that having a poet visit in prison had on his rehabilitation and how the world of poetry helps him to discover his voice. Next, I have Happy Hills, Knickknacks, Attacks by Sophie Henn. This is the second book in a new, very, very funny graphic novel series. The illustrations are so zany and fun. I love them. And I genuinely found the first book in this series so funny. So I'm really excited to read this one. They are just mad in the best possible way. Next, I have Rescuing Ruby by Nicola Baker. You may remember me speaking about the first book in this farm and animal themed series a couple of months ago when I read the first book, Finding Hope, which I really enjoyed. The first book in a series was very summery. This is more autumnal. So I'm really excited to follow on with Ava's journey, learning more about farming throughout the different seasons. Storm Seal by Sarah Ann Jukes. This author does an amazing job of telling really emotionally evocative stories in an age-sensitive way for a middle grade audience, but also really drawing on the power of animals for kind of well-being and mental health. They're beautiful animal stories as much as stories about mental health. This is about a young girl named Martha and her connection with a seal pup and how her relationship with that animal helps guide her through a stormy time for her own life personally and emotionally, particularly in relation to her grandmother being very unwell. I've loved Sarah Ann Jukes' previous books, so I think I'm going to love this one too. And finally, I have a proof of a book that is coming out in January, and that is The Ice Apprentices by Jacob North. This is about a young boy named Oswin who goes to a magical school for ice apprentices. There he sets out to prove his worth, and when beasts begin to strike, Oswin is going to have to muster all of the courage and skill he can to protect everything that he holds dear. This has a really kind of detailed, rich magic system. Like when you read a fantasy book and you can just tell the author knows their world so intricately. That is it. They are all of the books I'm going to talk about today. Moving forward, I am going to try and not do separate kids YA and adult book hauls. I am going to try and integrate them all together. If you want to let me know you're here but you don't have anything in particular to say, leave me an apple emoji in honor of Sleep Like Death. That is it for me today. I hope you're doing well, and I will speak to you in my next video.